Okay, surviving phagocytes. We haven't really, well, we've kind of talked about phagocytes. What are they?
Phagocytes eat.
Yeah, they, and they're part of the immune system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go through this process. So this, let's say, is a phagocyte. There are a bunch of different kinds of phagocytes, like macrophages. I'm sure you've heard of those, right? So I'm not going to put names to them for now. We're just going to say phagocyte. Phagocytes eat things that are not normal in the body. Remember we said they go around, check, 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 and then they get to something bad and they eat it, right? So we're going to talk about that. Here, we're going to learn about all these things later, and like I said, I really like it. It's fun. But let's say that this is its receptor, okay? And it comes across a bacterium. And that bacteria isn't normal, right?
No, it's not.
No, so what is he going to do to it?
Gonna eat it.
He's going to eat it. So what happens first? Well, first is adherence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then what happens is the phagocyte is going to phagocytize or engulf the microbe. And when it first engulfs the microbe, does anyone remember what this little bubble is called? So we engulfed them, right? It's kind of like endocytosis. Yes, but there's a more specific word when we're talking about phagocyte. Okay, inside our cells we call it an endosome, and here we call it a phagosome. Okay, so ingest it in this little bubble is called a phagosome.
What's the second step called?
Engulfment. And then we'll say phagosome formation. How about that? Now in that phagosome, it is, okay, I'm just trying to explain it. Don't try to memorize everything I'm saying. But it is kind of acidic, and so for most bacteria, it will destroy it. But for some viruses and bacteria, that's not enough. You have to do something else. Does anyone remember what happens next? So there are also these other, they're in our cells as well. I don't know how much you guys know about our cells. But these pockets that have a ton of nasty inside of them, okay? They're really acidic. They have like reactive oxygen species, a bunch of enzymes that break down stuff. Does anyone remember what those little guys are? Lysosomes? Does that ring a bell? Mm-hmm. Okay, so while the lysosomes are by themselves up there, they don't do much harm. But what are we trying to destroy here?
The bacteria.
The bacteria. So if you had to guess what happens next.
The lysosome opens up and the things inside attack the phagosome.
Yeah, so it's called phagosome-lysosome fusion. They fuse together to form a, this isn't that hard, phagosome plus lysosome makes a phagolysosome, exactly. Good job. So we'll say this is fusion. By the way, he's told you that tuberculosis stops this phagocyte from eating it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What it's specifically doing is not letting the fusion occur.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and once that fusion happens, what do you think happens to the bacteria? That was a crazy one. Come on, guys. What happens to the bacteria? Yeah, it gets destroyed. And then it just spits it out. Again, as I'm sure you know, this is very simplified. So we'll say here is digestion. And here, I'm trying to not use the big words. We'll say exocytosis. Okay, so that's what phagocytes do when they eat bad stuff inside your body. And after that, it spans a whole bunch of immune system stuff that you're going to learn about in the next test. But this is a form of, sometimes, think of the macrophages as the cops, okay? So if you are a microbe, you're hiding from the cops. I guess this doesn't really work. But you could go and, anyways. If they're hiding inside the white blood cells, that's the last place the body's going to check, right? Does that make sense? So it's a really good hiding spot. And if you're infecting the thing that's trying to kill you, that's really nice, right?
No.
Not for us, but for the bacteria, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay? It's just a form of evasion.
So
okay?
basically they're just hiding.
Yeah. So for tuberculosis, he will just, instead of being destroyed, he'll just live inside these white blood cells. And there are about like 6 other ones that I know of that can just survive within these white blood cells.
So what's being digested there?
Well, this isn't tuberculosis.
Oh.
This is just some other poor bacteria that got blown up. And this is very important when we talk about endotoxins, which we'll talk about today.
Mm-hmm. So
The biggest thing you need to know is fusion.
okay.
Between the phagosome and the phagosome and the lysosome produces the phagolysosome.
So this whole thing is just evasion.
Yeah, it's a form of evasion. There are a bunch of things they can do. But like they can hide in other host cells. In this case, they're hiding in phagocytes.
But hiding doesn't work out for them. So
Oh, the title of the slide was surviving phagocytes.
Oh.
I was showing what happens when they don't survive.
Oh, okay.
But, so let's say in Gulf 2, there could be another guy up here who's just like chilling.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like tuberculosis, that's what he does. He doesn't allow for that fusion.
So how does it not know it's there? Just
It probably does, but he can't do anything about it.
the lysosomes just can't do anything.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later,
Okay.
but he just doesn't allow the fusion. Tuberculosis is pretty nasty. I don't want to focus on it too much. So if that makes sense, you're good. Probably more than good.
That's good.
Is that okay?
If the whole process makes sense or just
It's really, I think you want to know more than you have to know. Just think phagocyte, eat. In phagosome, lysosome fuses with phagosome to create phagolysosome, digests it, spits out the junk. That's all you need to know.
okay.
Okay?